Welcome to the Freelance Tribe. Here we talk with skilled freelancers about their professional journey. Stay tuned for real-life experiences to learn and actionable steps to take to improve your freelancing career. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Orell Garten, a freelance software engineer and IT consultant who works at the intersection of software and data and builds data products for industrial companies. And today, we'll talk about creating as much of a systematic approach as possible to reduce freelancers' mental load and building a system that works for you in freelancing. So, welcome, Orell.
Hi, Yuri. Thank you for having me.
When you messaged me that you have this systematic approach to freelancing and like you'd like to share it, I was like, yes, let's do it. It's so important things. Many freelancers are forgetting about it. Freelancers are thinking about like building a personal brand. They're thinking about marketing and strategy, about do. But then like you always have to come back to something. You always have to have a system because it makes it so much easier. So tell me, what is the systematic approach to freelancing for you personally?
I'm actually not quite sure how to answer that question. I think there's not one systematic approach that fits everyone. So everyone has to find their own system. I started freelancing like 1.5 years ago, and before that I did some startup work. And there, it's all about finding a system that you can repeatedly do in one way or another, because it just reduces the amount of thinking you have to do on a daily basis. Because when the system is in place, you can kind of go through the steps and be done with it. So everyone just has kind of to find their system and to find a way to do things repeatedly in the same manner, even if the details may differ. So for me, I think that's mostly about content creation and marketing in the beginning, because that's actually like posting on LinkedIn, for example, every day is, or even like 2 or 3 times a week is extremely hard. You probably know that yourself.
Yeah.
You have to come up with ideas. You have to like write the text and the post, maybe add in like a picture or even a video. It's so much work, and the more of a systematic approach to the whole thing you get into the process, the less you have to worry about that. So for me, that usually means Monday mornings are content creation. Or sometimes on the weekend, depending on my schedule, but it's usually kind of ideation. So thinking about what to post, and then just write these posts and schedule them. So maybe it takes an hour each week, and then I'm done with it, and then I can think of other things.
How would you explain to your friend who just want to start freelancing why it is important to build a system?
It's you have more time for doing other things when you have a system in place for things you do often, because you stop thinking about the details of the process. You just follow the steps, and then your brain has more capacity for other things, basically. So like, especially when you're in a project, you usually have, I don't know, 35, 40 hours of work that you can do. And you usually, especially when you just start out, you want to do as much of that work as possible, because working hours or billable hours means money. And that's what your main concern should be in the beginning, to generate revenue one way or another. So marketing is often it's not on top of your mind. And when you get around that, you have to find a system that makes it easy for you to spend as little time as possible on things that don't make money, like in a direct way.
You know, it's interesting because I had one of the previous conversations, and freelancers usually are freaking out when they are not getting paid. And it's something that people are forgetting about. They think that they will just work, like kinda from 9 to 5, but in their own settings, but still like they have all amount of time to work, and every hour will be billable, and they will get paid, and they will be rich, etc. But yeah, it doesn't work that way. And I totally get it. Like the systems helps you to reduce amount of your non-billable hours, and also helps you to create more billable hours. So basically, you can work. So you told me that you have this marketing building system and you have a posting system. What else systems do you have?
Maybe it's not as much of a system as I would like it to be, but kind of I'm not sure what the what the correct way of saying that would be, but kind of like generating meetings with other people, especially on LinkedIn. So I usually reach out to people, 3 to 5 people a week, try to get at least 1 or 2 meetings, just to talk to them, not even with a specific goal in mind, but just understanding their problems. If they are freelancing, understanding like their approaches to marketing, project acquisition, and everything else, and like connecting to people. So, but that's hard to put into a system because you have to personalize messages. You have to like understand how you like what the right approach is to even talk to these people, and that's something I haven't figured out for myself, how to put it into more of a system than I already have. So yeah, that is probably another like system I have. And then also when joining new projects, I try to like have a systematic approach to the project. So I usually come in, and then the task is usually something around like reviewing what's there already, and then aligning the development usually with business requirements and business goals. And this is something that can be systemized in a little bit at least, because you can have like checkboxes where you just say, okay, this is done, this is done. And then how do you do a review of an application? Where do you start? But that is more of experience than a system in itself, I think. But it can help to just reflect on what you're doing every once in a while, like maybe every month or every 3 months, just to understand what you could be doing differently and therefore improve what you do to increase your efficiency.
Do you have a system for getting clients?
Not really. I think marketing, like LinkedIn posting, is one thing that just puts me into people's minds. So if they feel the need to like have a data product for their company or have trouble working through it, I want to be the one they think of, and that requires being like on their mind constantly, and they're like it's building authority and trust in a way, especially with more and more AI coming up. The whole trust thing is quite important in my opinion, because yeah, it's at the end of the day it's me doing the work, and AI might help with that, but it's not that they are trusting an AI to do the thing. So yeah, that is one thing. And sorry, I forgot the question.
Yeah, it was all about sales, but I feel like you already answered
Yeah.
it, that you are going by market. And I feel like the huge part of your, let's say, I believe that you still have the sales system, even if you don't call it the same way, but even connecting to people, like to 3, 5 people a week, I feel like it's also a huge part of the system. And I'm curious, how do you choose who to connect with?
Usually from people either engaging with my posts or other people engaging with posts, and I like from different people, and they have either an interesting take or the person's like the post they liked or comment on has some interesting takes. So I try to like build relations there. I usually start commenting, following them, engaging with their posts, and then after a while, just like, hey, do you want to chat for like have a coffee chat for 20 minutes, just talk about some shared experiences or whatever. And when you follow them for a while, you also get a feeling for what they like would be interested in talking about, and what their thing is that they can talk about, and I want to learn more about maybe. And I also offer like what I can offer to them, kind of like, okay, here I can talk about my experience, or how do you do sales, whatever. Yeah, and the like second part of client acquisition is usually going through recruiting companies. So I'm basically registered with all of them. I'm on basically all platforms for projects that are known to me, um, which is a huge time drain because you have to like update your profile everywhere. So I'm probably gonna, yeah, delete my accounts in a couple of these places. But yeah, that's another one. And then just stay in touch with people that you've worked with previously. I think recommendations are always a good way to get good clients, clients you want to work with, because when you go through recruiting companies, you never know what you're getting into.
You know, when you are connecting with people, with 3 to 5 people weekly, it's like 156 to almost 270 people a year, which definitely most likely you'll have some clients out of them. But how do you keep connections with all this amount of people? Do you have some kind of system for that?
Yeah, currently my like, let's say, contacts that I'm recurringly talking to, they live in an Excel file spreadsheet at the moment. Trying to, or I'm thinking about moving this to some kind of CRM system, but they're all quite complex, and I'm not sure if they like fit the or our solution to my problem. But it's basically an Excel file, their names, their contact information, when I last talked to them, and then kind of like topics we've been talking about, or they like to talk about. And it has two advantages, because I can just recurringly message them like once a quarter, something like that, and then say, hey, how's it been? And it doesn't always have to be a like video chat or coffee chat. Even like 3 to 4 messages on LinkedIn or email or whatever, a messenger service, goes quite a long way in the long run. And then maybe you talk to them once or twice a year, but it's still building trust and building relationships. And it's not that I'm doing that for business in like the first place. I'm genuinely interested in like how their story or has been going in the last 3 to 4 months, because that's a like learning opportunity for me. What works for them might work for me, or I just have to change it up a little bit, and then it can work for me. It's kind of like getting inspiration
How many
on what to
people,
change.
how many people do you have so far in your Excel sheet?
Maybe like 50 or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
not I'm
okay.
not keeping up with all of them. It's not possible. It's kind of like filtering out who is, although it's a very economic take on it, who's the most like has the most potential to like future collaborations or anything or something like that. And then there's just a couple of people that are just really interesting, and I just like talking to them because they always provide unique experiences and advice and stuff like that. So there's always a mixture of different things going into consideration when I like, okay, let's keep up with these people. And quite often you also realize that they don't want to keep up with you anyway. Kind of they're like disengaged. You're like, hey, yeah, it's all going well. How about you? You reply and then you never hear back. Kind of, and it's like, okay, I don't I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time. So just kind of like phase it out.
I can see that some people are already using ChatGPT for answering some for
Yeah,
adding valuable and meaningful comments, and I feel like you've recently done a great post about it, and it's so fun. But like I don't know why, but you can just feel it, you can just smell it, you can just totally understand if the post was written by ChatGPT, if the comment, because it's like it's not in a human way, but I feel like AI stuff is adapting, and at some point, I guess we'll have some systems, to they will automatically go through Google Sheet and they will automatically send messages, answer messages, and I feel
yeah.
like we can grow natural. I don't know if there will be any sense out of it, but we'll see. So, how do you understand that you need to build a system? For example, you decide to market yourself, you decide to go LinkedIn and start posting. Like, how do you build it right away, or do you do some things and then oh, okay, it would be great to have a system behind. So what is your approach here?
My approach is always to start doing before like thinking too much about it, because you don't know yet what you should be doing. Let's take posting on LinkedIn. When you first start out, it's super weird. You have this, you all like everyone has like friends who are like, oh, have you seen this funny LinkedIn post by whoever? And they're like making kind of not in a mean way, but making fun of it in some way. And you're like, okay, that's me now. That's a feeling you have in the beginning. But then you start posting more often. You connect with people who post, and then it becomes more natural. In the beginning, all your contacts on LinkedIn are people you know in real life. So there's the potential of getting like real life feedback is much higher. And then now I have, I don't know, like 2,800 followers or something like that. And I know only maybe 100, like really, or not even that. And then it's less awkward because you all know them through other posts, and people following me, like they push the follow button. They want to know like what I am doing or what my takes on things are. So I wouldn't say I would do them a disservice if I stopped posting, but they are obviously interested in getting the content from me in one way or another.
You never know. You never know. Maybe you will stop posting again. Like, oh my God, where's Orell? Like, what's going on? Like, where's like the world is ending. But yeah,
Yeah.
I totally understand what you are talking about. And I'm curious, where do you hold your system? So, do you have them in your mind, or do you literally have some checklists that you go through?
They're mostly in my mind. I don't have too many systems at the moment, and it's only me doing them.
Mhm.
So I can like have them in my mind. It would be different if I had different people doing the system, or if I would like scale my freelance business into some kind of agency business or something like that. Because then you obviously have different people using different systems, and you have to write them down, which is a whole other thing because you know what the system looks like and what it like should look like in your opinion. But once you give them to someone else, they might interpret it completely different, which is also fine because even in the same company, they have like everyone has to have their own system and use it. What I sometimes try to do, especially for content, write down templates. And I don't use them like one to one, but it's all again like an inspiration on how to get a post started without thinking too much about how to structure the post. So when posts are successful, I'm kind of like, okay, maybe this like approach to posting gets me a lot of impressions, or sometimes, okay, this leads to a lot of interactions, but that's hard to measure and hard to track. It takes time again, so I'm not doing too much of that actually.
So am I hearing it correctly that your approach to building a system is like you have a task, you start doing, you noticed what's happening, and then you
Yeah.
kind of trying to understand, okay, so I'm doing this thing like too many times, maybe I can like this step, then this step, and this step, and then you build the system in your mind, and after that you can just repeatedly do anything. And for example, I feel like if you are posting on LinkedIn, if you would start to post on Instagram, I can imagine it would be like pretty much very similar, definitely with some tweaks, but pretty much the same. So
At least your overall system would still be the same. You have some kind of ideation process where you think about what to post and you create these posts. On Instagram, they would probably more work because you have to like have a picture, and then like Instagram, like the communities probably work differently than the ones on LinkedIn. They're much more personal, I would assume. Therefore, it's the overall system would still work, but it probably would need some tweaking for the specific channel you're choosing to use. And I would always recommend starting with one channel. It's a lot of work, and when you have that channel kind of like systematically down in your system in how you do it, then you can think about moving to the next channel. But at the end, you still like marketing is all good, but you still have to work like billable hours as a freelancer, which kind of yeah, still have to do that. So content creation is not the end goal; it's a means to getting clients and building trust at the end of the day. at
Sometimes
least
when I,
for me.
yeah, sometimes when I'm building a system for myself, I sit and think about some steps. Definitely not overthink because like it can
Yeah.
be forever. Um, and usually there are some like not very valuable steps. And while practicing, while doing stuff, I constantly tweaking those systems and etc. But sometimes I have this feeling when I have a step-by-step approach. I don't want to sit and think if it's effective or not. I just follow in the steps. It will save my mind and my sanity. I don't have to worry about it. So it worked before, it will work now, but I feel like it's not the most effective thing. So I'm curious, how do you ensure that your system is effective?
I think ideally you can measure kind of the outcome. For example, taking like LinkedIn posting again, you can see for each post the impressions, the engagements. Obviously, one post doesn't tell you the story, but the overall impressions tell you the story, and then you can see, okay, these kind of posts work, and then there are people telling you kind of like what kind of posts work, and you have to work around that, kind of figure out what works for you and for the LinkedIn algorithm that actually, or for people who actually like that. Um, but measuring is quite hard. Like on a website, you can obviously measure like how many page visits you got and then how many people clicked through your CTA and everything. But in real life, that's much harder. Even just sending messages to people asking for like, talking to them. Sure, you can measure that, but every message is different because it has to be different. You can't just send the same message to everyone, and then it again becomes hard to track what works or what doesn't work because everyone is different, and some people are very open to talking, like they say yes to everyone
Yeah.
basically asking for a chat, and then people who are being asked too often, they are like, okay, no time, or they don't even reply, which is also fine. But it's hard to like measure these, let's say, social interactions and social systems. It's it's easier to measure like systems where you're not actively doing the system, but people come in and kind of like a sales funnel, for example. Like, it's easier because you can say, okay, they made it through each step, and then you qualify them, and then there are only 50% of leads left, and then you get one project from, I don't know, 100 contacts or something like that. But yeah, I think reflecting on what you're doing and kind of what you're feeling about it is might be more efficient in finding if they're effective or not. And if they're not effective, just drop them. Like if they're not getting you the results and you're not happy about it, or you don't enjoy doing these things, so be it. Um, that's why we're freelancers. We want to be like doing the stuff that's enjoyable and it's fun. Obviously, not everything is fun, but still, uh, I don't know. You can't do things that suck all the time.
And I feel like it feels like sometimes it's hard to drop something that you've built, especially if you liked it from the beginning. And maybe even, yeah, maybe times changes, but I know that for many people, it's hard to really change. And I feel like it's one of the traits of freelancers is exactly to be flexible and adaptable and to always kind of like reviewing your processes and your systems that you have to ensure that they are reflecting where you are at this moment. And I feel like the one crucial thing is that the systems that you've built in the beginning of your freelancer journey, most likely it won't work that great after like few years of freelancing and
Yeah.
after a few decades. But I feel like it's all comes with practice. So I wonder if you are creating a system, how do you how do you add this growth part? So do you think about growing in the future, or you just create a system for this specific moment, and then if something happens, you just go through and review it?
I think the future, at least the near future, is always a consideration for me. But I don't know where I want to be in 5 years with my freelance business. I mean, the kind of like natural step would be to like start an agency or something like that, but I don't see that happening for me, at least not in the way people are doing that. So I'm not thinking about that, but I would like to be able to have like these systems work more effortlessly so that I can kind of concentrate on what I want to do and kind of pick the projects and clients I want to work with better than I am able to now. And then that would lead to much more freedom because then I can decide, okay, I want to work 30 hours a week, or maybe just 20, or maybe I want to do 60 hours some weeks. That's the flexibility and the freedom I want to have. So that is, I think, having a long-term like vision or goal on what you kind of like the modus you want to work in is probably important for building systems because that kind of decides, or at least helps you decide what to focus on while building these systems.
I feel like if freelancers are really good in creating systems, or at least in noticing that something is repetitive and like creating some kind of structure for those processes, I feel like at some point you don't really have to work because you are doing everything. Because, for example, when you drive in a car or if you are walking, you don't think how to move one leg and another leg. You just do it. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
exactly what systems are for freelancing, something that helps you to free your brain, be more creative, spend more time in connection people and really do networking. And at the end of the day, like you always know what's happened next because you have systems for everyone. And I feel like it's also kind of a compass that helps you to choose the right way to move when you are doing your freelancing, when you are going
Yeah.
through a freelancing journey.
Yeah, I think like walking is also a system, but
Yeah.
the difference in like between walking and the freelance system is that in freelancing, the world around you changes all the time, while in walking, it kind of stays the same. Like the concept of walking at least stays the same, but the concept of business and how people perceive certain things changes. So your sales process might work now, but does it still work in 5 years? Probably not, or at least not in the same way. You have to adapt and tweak all the time to reflect the changes that are happening. I mean, it's a good example. Like the last 2 years have been quite rough for many freelancers because all these like project platforms, recruiting companies, they don't have as many projects anymore. So it gets tougher to get projects. But people who are doing like having their own acquisition pipelines and having strong networks, they're still able to acquire projects. So they just changed their approach, and I'm actually quite thankful that I'm like starting freelancing during a tougher time at least, because it allows me to like build a system that doesn't rely on too many outside people or outside things that I cannot control. It's got to be resilient. I think that's a good word for it.
How do you ensure that you are staying up to date to changes in the freelancing environment?
Again, talking to people, talking to clients, kind of understand their worries, not only the technical side, but also the like, do budgets dry up? How does budgeting in these companies even work? Like when do they decide on budgets? On when do they create these budgets? Who actually decides who gets the money? Who are the stakeholders? And then also talking to other freelancers about it, because usually, and that's one big advantage of being in different projects all the time, you get a feeling for more than just one company. You understand what's happening in the industry in a broader sense, which also helps you to, at least if you're willing to, helps you to see where you might have to go to make it work. I think most freelancers use ChatGPT and Co for their work in some way. I'm not sure how many like employees do that because there's no immediate need for that in many places.
I feel like it's super important that you mention and talking to people, and I feel like that many people are missing out. I'm having some conversation with freelancers who are freelancing like for decades, and then like, oh, it's so hard to find a project that matches my rate. And I'm like, yeah, did you check like the market? Did you talk to people? Yeah, no, I just finished my long-term project that I was working for for 2 years, and yeah, but yeah, no, like everything is changes, and if you are not having conversation, if you're not talking to people, if you are not seeing like what's happening, like you either change or you go to full time, So
Yeah.
it depends, and Oral, I wish to have the sky is the limit, but time is the limit to our conversation. So the final question, what is your favorite food?
Oh, my favorite food. It's probably cow soy, which is a Thai dish. It's extremely good, but you can't find it in Germany. At least I haven't found it. So, if anyone has any tips where to find one, I'm more than open to knowing about it.
Message Oral right away. And what is the best way to message you about that?
It's probably LinkedIn. I'm on there way too much, so the chance of me seeing your message is quite high. And I think you can find it in the show notes later, I guess. Yeah, but that's probably the easiest way. Or my website, one of them.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Oral, for sharing your experiences. And it's been such a pleasure to hear and learn from you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was happy to share my experiences, and yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button, 5 stars, and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.